I'm Candice and I'm an alcoholic.
Yes.
Sure, there's so much going through my mind right now on where to start, And I actually wasn't really nervous until someone would ask me about it, then it would hit me. I'm like, oh shit. And I've tried not to project or prepare my share, in my head. And I've really just tried to hand it over this morning. And it's funny because my higher power has a sense of humor. My day started off, getting ready and a little bit anxious, but reminding myself it's not about me. It was always about me, but today's not about me. So I carried a message to the best of my ability, and that's what keeps me clean and sober. But then I got a message saying that someone left the tap on at the salon, and it was flooding. And I was the only one with a set of keys that was close by. And I was like, fuck. And my husband had my car with the keys in it. And I'm a huge control freak. So if I can't go and fix the problem and know exactly what's going on, I freak out. So for about 45 minutes, I was pacing, creating scenarios in my head. Everybody's fucking pissed off with me now. It just went mad. And eventually I'm like, okay, what's the solution? Speak to a sponsor. And I know it's underlying anxiety, and that kept me distracted from this moment because I can make it such a big thing in my head. And yes, it is. It's an amazing achievement. I was just telling a friend, I've been in recovery for as long as I was inactive, and I came into recovery at the age of 23, and back then there weren't as many women. It was, for me, my perception was a woman can't be an alcoholic. The men were the alcoholics, openly the alcoholics. And there's no ways I was an alcoholic. But today I sit here and I'm so grateful that I am alcoholic and that I accept that I'm alcoholic and that I have a solution. Because there's 14 women sitting here today, and 17 men. So we're getting there, ladies, which is incredible. Yeah, and everyone in the room today should be really proud of yourself because you're part of that 4%. Just for today, you're part of that 4%. And it's something that I never, ever thought I'd be part of. There's no ways I could have stopped drinking and using. It was just part of my life. I used to lay in bed at night and dream about using and how my life is going to be, and how I'm going to party with my child. Fucking crazy. Because I had my daughter quite young, and I calculated that when I'm 36, she'll be 16, and I can go on jauls with her, and it'll be so much fun. Now today, I'm like, fuck, I don't want it to be near alcohol, because from all the warning signs, she's just like me. It's not me to say, or anybody else to say if she's alcoholic. That's her decision to make, and part of her journey. But I'm so grateful that I know that I'm alcoholic. How it was. I grew up in a really functional family. My mom didn't drink. She hated alcohol. My dad did drink, but I wasn't exposed to it. He stopped when I was 2 years old. He went to a treatment facility that I only found out about when I went into my last treatment facility when I was 2. And my perception of an alcoholic was that you just drank alcohol. But my dad, we had a bar upstairs that was filled with the best of the best that had a lock on it for good reason. And I'm an alcoholic, I would manipulate. The house has got like this hollow entrance as you walk in, and there's a long skinny door. And Candice, the alcoholic, will do anything to get a fix. So what I used to do is climb on the door. I don't know how. Today, I'd probably just kick the door down. But I used to climb on that door, climb on the top, lean over the rail that was quite loose, and go on the other side that wasn't locked, and take the alcohol down and hide it and drink it and fill it up with tea, thinking no one will ever know. But I always got caught out, I thought I was so good at being an alcoholic. But yeah, I grew up, I have a younger brother and an older sister, so typical middle child syndrome. And they used to tease me about being adopted. So my whole life I clung on to that. I was always special and different, and I never really was part of, and I would always get in shit, but good reason. I was a naughty little shit that lied and that was dishonest from the age of like 5. I used to steal money to go to the tuck shop. I used to lie about things that would break. I would do anything to deny my actions. And I was right. And the world was against me. And that reading was so beautiful about forgiving, because my whole active, I blamed everybody else for my using. You treated me like this, so I drank. You did this, so I used. Like it was everybody else's fault but me. And I'm not going to talk too much on about how it was, because I've got 12 years of recovery where a lot of life has happened. But I would go to any lengths to use and drink. Once I found out that did that to me, it was like a mission. I would skip school. I would lie about where I was going. I used my good friends as an excuse, and then I'd turn the corner, walk up the road, turn the corner, and go down to the bad friends. And it was always, my parents blamed them. Bad influences, stay away from them. Meanwhile, I was a bad influence, I was the one making the decisions, choosing to be in those situations and put myself in those situations. It was no one else's fault. I went through school. I don't know how I passed matric, because I was really disinterested in anything. I had no goals. I had no inclination of wanting to do better. I wore masks to fit into so many different groups because I wanted to be part of, but in reality I never was part of, because I didn't make myself part of, because I wasn't honest. And yeah, but at the age of 18 I met my ex, and from the age of 15 I was in a relationship after relationship after relationship. In a relationship, cheating to get into another relationship, because that relationship's gone for shit and you're not giving me what I need anymore, so I need to find someone else that's going to give me what I need. And that was my cycle within relationships. I made them a higher power, and yeah, so my ex, we were together for 5 years almost, and I had my daughter with him. I also did fall pregnant before that, and chose to have an abortion that I held my mum prisoner to not tell anybody about, because that's what I did. I went to my mom, I manipulated and got her to enable me, because I was that good at manipulation. Made her feel so bad and keep a secret to not tell the family, because I still had this idea that I was fine. Just need to fix it and then carry on with life. And for a long time I blamed my ex for that decision, but I can't. I sit here now and it's not his fault. It was a decision that I made. Out of whatever the circumstances were, it was still a decision that I made. And today I can sit here and it's a cut thing to do, but it was part of my journey. The baby wouldn't have been healthy. I was on copious amounts of drugs and alcohol. That baby wouldn't have been healthy, and so I ended up I had my first incident, been rushed to hospital, try to kill myself because I couldn't deal with the feelings and the drugs and alcohol weren't working. So I got put into hospital and the doctor said she cannot be released. She needs to be put into a psych ward, for depression. Oh, that's my problem. I'm depressed. And I was in a treatment facility up in Joburg, and for 2 weeks I sat in the art class. It was suggested that I maybe go to a few meetings, but I don't have a problem. Why should I go to a meeting? And I managed to manipulate one of my friends to bring drugs into the rehab and use drugs on the rehab premises. So selfish, don't give a shit about anybody else but me. And my one friend found out about it, and she cucked all over me. And when my friends did that to me, I was like, fuck you, I don't want you in my life. Because I couldn't handle the truth. When my family would give me the truth, fuck you. Sorry, I swear a lot. I'm trying to be a lady in recovery, but it just gives it more emphasis in so many different levels. But yeah, it was always everybody else's fault on my actions, And I left that treatment facility and went straight back. He didn't visit me, but I was so obsessed about getting back into that relationship. And left, started using, got back into the relationship, and fell pregnant. I was on the pill, but I was on copious amounts of drugs. Medications work to a degree if you follow instructions, and I might have missed 1 or 2 here and there because it was so fucked and I didn't know what days it was. But God gave me Chloe. And while I was pregnant with Chloe, it's something I don't like to share about because I don't want people to look at me bad. Oh my God, you did what? I did. I drank. I was drunk on my baby shower, and I thought no one would know. While everyone was taking up for me, I was down at a friend, drinking punch. Not caring about another life form inside my body. I justified it by the doctor said I could have a glass of wine every day. But I am an alcoholic. I can't have one glass of wine. It does not stop there for me. One is too many and 1,000's never enough. And when that clicked with me, I was like, fuck. That's exactly who I am. More. So we weren't living at my folks, and while I was pregnant, we moved back with my family, and my dad didn't talk to me my whole pregnancy. He did here and there, but he was so pissed off with me. And I don't blame him. My sister is a overachiever. She always did extremely well at school. She had all the friends. She had a huge friendship group. Everybody adored my sister. My brother was the funny guy. My brother's exactly like my son. He was a funny guy, he was soft-natured, he was gentle, and then you got Candice, who didn't know who the fuck she was. So I wore all these masks, and always felt not part of and different, and no one understood how I felt. And when I moved back home, and that shame of my dad, it's just something that I had to go through, and not looking at the gratitude that my parents allowed me back in their home. There I was, 19 years old, pregnant. They could have kicked me out and be like, no. But my parents always, I'm their child. And I still put them through absolute hell. Always about me, so selfish, so self-centered, and had no idea what my brother's life was like, what my sister's life was like, what their likes were, what my mom's past life was like, not her past life, but her childhood and where she grew up. And I had no idea about any of that shit. That's how self-absorbed I was in my mind. And I ended up asking for help and going to my first meeting. So we were referred to a meeting at a facility there, and I walked in, I'm like, Mom, you have to come with me, I can't do this alone. And the lady at the reception directed us to the meeting, and we got there, and I was sitting in a circle. all these people, and they were talking about alcoholic, and I sat there and I was like, what the fuck is this? It was called a self-love? Tough love, which is like Al-Anon. So it was all the parents and the family members of an alcoholic, and there I'm sitting alcoholic. I couldn't bear it. I got up and I left, but my mom stayed behind. And that was a turning point on me getting better, because my mom learned to stop enabling me. And once my last lifeline is gone, I fizzle. I can't suck the life out of you anymore. And I went into treatment, and there was some kind of step work there, but it wasn't solution based. The bell would ring and all line up for medication. That was the best time of day, because I was depressed. I was everything else but an alcoholic, and I needed a pill to fix me, because a pill's going to fix everything. Fix all my fuck ups. And needless to say, a pill does not fix me. And I'm so grateful for that, because I've got the 12 steps. And I knew I still had the desire to use, obviously, because I was using. And I knew that I couldn't trust myself. Okay, well, first I did get involved in a relationship with a married man. In a sick relationship, trying to get out of it. It was just madness. And that's what I created. I created madness. And I went to a halfway house and ended up relapsing with this married man. And, I was in the halfway house for about 3 weeks. It was a block away from my daughter's school. My daughter was living with my mom. Not once did I offer to take her to school. Not once did I offer to pick her up from school. Spend time with her, nothing. Because it was all about Candice. And once I ended up relapsing, it got exposed like it always does. Dishonesties always get exposed. And it was suggested that I come to either rehab in Cape Town, which actually ended up burning down while I was in treatment here, or the treatment facility here. And I'm like, okay, Durban's closer than Cape Town, let me go to Durban. Because my family did not want me in Joburg. And I walked in there in 2010, right after the Soccer World Cup, where I fucked up my job. I did have a job, but I was so focused on drinking and using that I would be sick or ignore phone calls because I'm still using. That typical hold down a job but not really holding down a job. That's who I was. And I did study, but not really. I was at a college for 2 years doing beauty, something I never wanted to do. Did it to appease my family because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And until I came into recovery, until I conceded defeat. And I hadn't conceded defeat the day I walked into that treatment facility, because I was doing it for my family. And thank God for the people up there, because I was ripped to shreds emotionally, which was exactly what I needed to be. Concern groups. There was a group about me. Because my behavior was shocking, and I was still obsessed about my ex. My first 4 steps were about my ex. How am I going to fix this relationship? Because if the relationship's okay, everything's going to be okay, we're going to be a happy family. It's so delusional. And I got consequences, and I had to restart my steps, and I was put on a combat with my family. I had to stand in front of Keith, because Keith used to live up there, on a Thursday evening and have a 5-minute phone call with my daughter. I had very hectic consequences, and for me, cutting off communication because I know how to manipulate my family was like, what the fuck? I had to deal with me. I had to work my steps, and I had to get honest. So I was there for 4.5 months, and I made the decision to move down to Scotland. And it was the best decision ever, because here I am. You know, this is a special fellowship, and it's changed so much in 12 years. But what stayed the same is the solution, and people wanted to get better. Look, we've had a few sick moments. I've been very sick throughout my recovery, in moments where I've taken back my will and I've tried to run the show, but I always come back. You know, I know that the solution lies within these rooms and the 12 steps. So much happened. I'm married to an alcoholic. There's a suggestion you don't get into a relationship in your first year. You should only get in a relationship maybe in your 4th, 5th year. You know? Because of my track record, I make my significant other my higher power. And, you know, it becomes a huge fix for my disease. And my disease can thrive off that, which was my experience in my first year. I got in a dishonest relationship with him. Nothing happened. It was all the feels, you know. For the first time I was feeling, and I felt like I was a kid again. And all these feelings were so amazing. It was so mad. You know, until I exposed it to my sponsor and had to get honest. And I knew what the right thing to do was, and I had to do it because I was in a fucking mess and I didn't want to use. I did a lot of meetings. You know that 1990? We had a group of us that there aren't many left. That's just the nature of the disease. But we would go to meetings every single night. Friday nights we'd hit 3 because, you know, we're jawless. Scotbra, Craigie Bird, one of us would be sharing and carrying a message, and then we'd go through to Musgrave and then all have double espressos, one after the other. We had lots of fun in our first year. And second year, you know, it still carried on. And then what recovery gave me was responsibilities. I got a job. I started studying. You know, I got my daughter back at 18 months clean and sober. I got given these gifts of responsibility, so I ran out of time, you know. And because I started focusing on all these responsibilities and my daughter come back, I don't have time to go to meetings. You know, I need to focus on doing events and da-da-da-da-da. And for about 2 months, I probably didn't go to many meetings at all. And I fucked out. And my sponsor fired me. And she didn't fire me, I fired her. I didn't use her. I didn't use her properly. I was on self-will. And, you know, I had to come back into these rooms and ask for help. Get a sponsor. Do what I was taught. Because no one can do recovery for you but yourself. And that's a big lesson. You know, I can do it for other people, but it doesn't last. What you put before your recovery, you will lose. Relationships, kids, work. You know, for a long time it was work, and no meetings. And I fuck out. I can't cope. And when I keep this my primary purpose and do what I need to do, everything else just falls into place. And it's really that simple. And I'm so grateful for that, because I can complicate and go crazy when it's actually that simple. If I'm getting to my meetings, speaking to my sponsor, doing my step work, working on a relationship with my higher power, which is actually the most difficult thing to do, because my whole life I believed I was a higher power. I had no idea I was, but I thought I was, because I knew how to run the show. And that still comes back. And then when I'm in a mess, I'm like, why am I in a fucking mess? Because I've been trying to run the show. I haven't been saying hello even, you know? It's like any other relationship I have in my life, I need to put in action in order for the relationship to grow. And today, my perception on a higher power is so beautiful. I walked into the rooms fearing God. God was going to strike me down. I was going to hell because I was a huge sinner, and there was no hope. Today, it's like rainbows. When you walk on a rainbow, glitter, boom, as you go. It's that happy place for me. It's a space of like, oh, thank God, I don't have to run the show, and you've got this. And it might not always be what I want in moments of complete fear and desperation, but when I'm on the other side of faith, it's incredible. It's so incredible, that connection. And I found that connection in these rooms first. I made you guys my higher power because you were greater than me, and I wanted what you had. And, so on the years grew, my perception changed, and I'm going to get emotional. Oh. If I cry, I'm not a self-pity victim. I might have been a couple of weeks ago, but today I'm grateful because I can sit here clean and sober after, this week I've been thinking this last year has been huge. It's been one of the most difficult years for me in my recovery. Because there's moments I didn't think I was going to make it. There's moments I didn't want to make it. Those suicidal thoughts did pop up. But God worked in my life, with my sponsees. Because one night I was sleeping and I got woken up by my husband, and he's like, it's an important phone call, you really need to take this. And my one sponsee was going through exactly what I was going through. And just that connection, it only takes two to have a meeting, to talk about my stuff honestly, because I have this perception, I'm 12 years clean and sober. I need to be floating constantly and have my shit together. But I don't. I'm an alcoholic. I'll never recover. I will always be in recovery as long as I choose to. And do the things that I need to do. And, there were so many things happening outside of myself that I really had no control over. Powerless, to feel completely powerless, is a cuck feeling when I'm not accepting it. It is the pits. It's like I get filled with fear, I want to control. It's space for my disease to grow when I'm not accepting, and my head just goes all crazy, and it's everybody else's fault. I've had quite a year with my daughter, and she's 14, and I have a son, I mentioned him, he's just a little light bubble, but is that the 5 minutes left? You didn't submit. You didn't give me the warning of the past one. What?
Because you were fun.
See how I tried to control that. But, my daughter's gone through a lot this year. And there's things that I'm still discovering that have happened, that she's gone through a lot of trauma. And I've tried to fix it every time. I've tried to send her to psychologists. There was a moment of complete desperation where she was a danger to herself and to us, where the police had to get involved, and my 14-year-old daughter to get carried away and put in GJ Crooks because she had taken something, and I'm like, no, she needs to go to Kingsway. They said no. They sped off with her to GJ Crooks, and by the time I got there, she was in the emergency rooms, and they'd given her sedation. And it was the first time my child had a hectic mood of adulterated substance that I know of. I'd never given her anything hectic. And to see her confused and so lost and just so desperate, she's a cutter, just so desperate and angry, fucking angry. and I can't do anything about it. It was hectic. So I've had moments where I've laid on my couch completely fucked because I'm so powerless. The day after, I was on the phone to about 20 different facilities to try to get into a safe space. Because, I think I know better. And she ended up going into a treatment facility and coming out with a whole bunch of medication, which is something I had to let go of. And I don't like to share about it because I'm like, oh, people are going to judge me. But I'm so over it because it just is what it is. I just didn't want her to die. And for the first time, I've experienced just an inch of what I put my mom and dad through. And, she's currently in Joburg. I had to remove her from this space for her safety and ours, because there was a lot of violent moments, that I couldn't drive in a car with her because she'd try and jump out. And I would cling on to her because she's having an episode of complete meltdown and she just wants out. And I can relate to that, because I did that often. My brother had to hold me down once while my parents were speeding on the highway because I was trying to jump out the fucking car. And I experienced that fear that I put my mother through. But she's doing really well in Joburg, and my disease still wants to make it about me, I got her back. I'm incapable of being a mom. All that crazy shit that my disease wants me to feel, that's not true. I really have tried to be the best mom ever. And I'm just powerless at this moment of her journey. And I'm not the solution. My husband, we've gone through a hectic year. My husband got retrenched. But through it all, God has been the constant, because He's looked after us the whole way. When there were moments where I got in the car and ran, got in the car, fucking drive to Port Shepstone, don't know where the hell I'm going, don't want to be around anymore. I pick up the phone and phone my sponsor. If I can't get hold of my sponsor, I phone a friend. And for me to phone a friend and be vulnerable is a big thing for me, because, like I said, I like to fix it on my own. But I can't. And I'm so grateful for this fellowship and my friends and my sponsor, my sponsees that use me, because I can justify, my sponsor's busy, I'm not going to phone her. And then I deal with it on my own and I get in a mess. Until I pick up the phone and I'm like, fuck, I should have phoned you 3 days ago. I'm grateful for all the people that God's put in my life today. Because I really, I could share so much more, obviously don't have time. I've got a lot of beautiful things that have happened in recovery, but this year has been a tough year. But, I'm sitting here and I'm sober. I didn't have that desire to use, That was taken a long time ago. And that's a gift, because that's why I came into these rooms, was to stop using. And today, to know that it's not even a thought, makes me extremely grateful. Thanks for letting me share.